So if people are tuning in, hi, I'm David McGuire. I'm the director and founder of Stewards, broadcasting live from Kona. So this is an episode, our final episode in 2021. So with us is, I think, our fifth Art for Shark artist, Tom Ciccone. Do you say Ciccione or Ciccone?
It's kind of an interesting version. I think it's a blend of, Ciccone's fine. That works.
Okay, good Irish name.
Yeah, totally
Tom
Irish.
Ciccone, who is a fine artist. He's an illustrator, an athlete is how I know him, because he and his family have participated in our annual Run for Sharks for 4 years in a row, not only as a participant with his wife and son Tommy, but also as a participant with his booth and a donor of some of this incredible art. And we just had our last event early November, and they were out there with around 100 people having fun, getting healthy, learning about health and protecting sharks. Tom has a really interesting background of education and application, but he also integrates his work into fitness and nutritional supplements and athletics as well. So if you look at him, you look at his whole family, you can see fitness and health is really important to him, which is a really important thing to me as well as Shark Stewards. If you don't have a healthy ocean, if you don't have healthy people, we can't have a healthy humanity or a healthy world. So Art for Sharks is a conversation. Feel free to insert your comments into the chat, into the message on Facebook Live, and we'll try to answer that, have a conversation, but also we're going to go through some of Thomas's work and some of the actual in-process artwork that shows his technique, his design, which is what I said is highly meticulous, with really incredible detail, very, very realistic, but also very creative with other materials like coffee. So, Tom, welcome to the Art for Sharks with Shark Stewards. Thanks for joining us live. And
it's great to be here for sure. And interestingly enough, you are, seeing as you're in Hawaii, and we'll talk more, I guess, more about the coffee thing. There's a whole thing of Kona coffee. I had this great idea to go with, but I'll let you take it. Speaking of the whole coffee thing, it's kind of an interesting segue into that, seeing as you're in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what why we do these and a big emphasis and message for us is connection. Connection across the oceans, connection to wildlife, connection to all culture, and not exclusion and not elimination, but inclusion. And so it's really fascinating being on a remote island, middle of the Pacific, a more modern civilization, but with deep cultural roots and cultural beliefs, but also close ties to the land and the ocean, and sharks as well. But yeah, we're right near Kona coffee country, and there's a strong organic movement here, and a really strong movement of living close to the earth and living close to the ocean. Something that we all should aspire to do, but it's difficult in metropolis like San Francisco.
Which I am here. I just got back from the Big Island probably about 2 weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving. So it was right before all the weather, but I was just blown away by how natural it is, and I just loved it. It just was such a refreshing thing when you're coming from Orange County and you're going into we went into Waipio Valley, and it was just like nothing there, and it's just so refreshing to be so off grid, or you walk down the beach and there's lava and turtles, and it's just, you just feel so much more connected, and that was such a huge inspiration for me. Just coming back, I'm like, oh, all these things start going, and it's, I think that in and of itself is you were talking earlier about muses and inspiration. Just being in the elements and being in nature just is such a huge moving and driving force not only for creativity, but for, just passion and, wanting to be connected to nature and people, and trying to inspire just the general public to, be in tune, which I think you lose a lot, I think. And, if there's any way to do it, if you have a talent, I think it's great. It only, I think, reinforces and feeds itself to being more inspirational and being more committed and being more in tune and trying to get more people inspired and committed and in tune. And so I think that is probably one of the primary things that keeps me going to, just draw more things, to explore more art, try to push the creative aspects and practice, how much I, try to, you're talking being meticulous. I'm just trying to get the craft as pure as I can get it for myself anyway, which it never gets there, but it's all a process. And I think that in and of itself is a whole lifetime of exploration. And so it's almost infinite. And I like that because, you can delve as much as you want and try to get people involved in that too. And the whole process is, I don't know, I guess it's just the whole crux of the thing, I guess, in some way. Yeah.
Well, and life is a process.
Yeah.
Those of us who get to survive, right? And keep staying healthy and learning and trying to learn from what either our mistakes or others' mistakes, and also the things that we can build upon. I think art is such a great example of that, because even literally like a foundation, like a gesso or whatever your base materials of your media, and you build upon your message, your muse. And for me, I'm more of a writer and a photographer, and it's very similar. You start out almost with a blank slate and you create your own message, and that message evolves, or that medium where you express that message evolves. And you really are a multidisciplinary artist, right? You are kind of multimedia. You're a professional with PixylMix, your own company. So you are a professional artist, as well as doing your wildlife. I know you sell your wildlife work, but also you probably, that might be a little bit of that escape you were talking about earlier, or hanging on to those experiences, like seeing a green turtle in Hawaii, or seeing a shark, or seeing a beautiful seascape, and carrying that with you to continue.
It's true. And it's an interesting thing. It's what I find most fascinating is when I actually am getting into a piece. Some of the best pieces I find, they actually, you get so into them, you get so absorbed into them that you become just involved in the actual piece itself. Like you can feel it and you can smell it and you can just experience it. And it's an interesting thing. And I don't know if everyone has this, that, actually paints or whatever, but I find the best pieces that I do when they're big or they're large, I find it's not just an escape, it's more like just a bigger experience. And that's why I think I really like to do it more and try to get more involved into it, because it draws me in as much as I can get it out. And so, really interesting thing when I start when I'm really getting going, it's like you just get so lost in the process. I can feel the textures of the skin and the teeth. And if I'm doing, like, say, for example, a shark or something, you can hear the sounds as if you're under the water, or, just the really organic stuff with its fur. You can feel the textures of it. And I like when that happens, and it doesn't always happen, but the best pieces, you really just get so involved into it that you can almost get this visceral component to it. And it's way more than an escape, so to speak, as it is like just a blending of a weird experience, I guess, is an interesting way of putting it. And it really, I think if I can get any of that into the drawing, I think then people can kind of get that when they look at it. They feel that it's not just a picture, it's different than just a picture. And I think that's really cool. Or drawing, I should say, not a picture, but drawing.
Absolutely more than. So I'm going to ask you to share
Sure.
your screen in a little minute,
Sure.
but I did want to show, your Instagram, which
Yeah.
a lot of people are doing. And we're getting into it as well. And so you can find some of Tom's work. You also sell it on Etsy, right?
Yeah, the coffee stuff I do with coffee is on Etsy. It's under a different Instagram. It's called Art and Java,
Art
which
Java.
is Art and Java. Art underscore and underscore Java, and that that is, like I was saying, it's in an Etsy shop because it's a little bit more I don't want to say handmade, but it kind of just fits in some way. It's less fine art and more kind of handmade type of stuff, and it's a little bit more accessible in some way because it's less fine art and it's more just copy art. And I think people like that. So, a lot of people can kind of relate to it in some way. It's more than just a doodle with coffee. But interestingly enough, my first coffee piece was, and you can see it on your screen right there, it says coffee art. It was actually that tortoise, and that's kind of what kicked off the whole thing. I was doing a picture of a tortoise, and I was drinking a cup of coffee and spilled some of it on it, and I couldn't clean it up, and I was so disappointed because I was actually liking how it came out. And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Do I got to trash the drawing, or and so when it dried, it had such an interesting stain to it that I was like, oh my God, there's something to this. And so I just kept going with it and decided just to kind of play around with graphite drawings and, paint on watercolor paper with coffee rather than, I guess, some classic watercolor stuff.
Well, I think we've all had experience with a little bit of a coffee stain. And
yeah.
fortunately, I've had it on my laptop once, and that destroyed my work.
Yeah, I guess
no, but I think that's really cool, like just using especially Kona coffee or organic grown, but just I love coffee. I love the smell. I love the texture of the tree, and just you can see like a bleed. I can envision like you do with pen and ink bleeds or watercolor bleeds.
And it's really interesting because the staining is so immediate that you can't undo it, and that's why it's such a neat organic kind of medium, because you can't fix it. So it just kind of, you have to go with it, and it dries really quickly. So that's because it's water based. So it stains and kind of creates these really magical layers of stain, and it's so just interesting that you can kind of, every piece is different in the way that it interacts with each kind of piece. And if you put a little bit more than less, a little bit less here, it acts so differently. And one thing that's a really interesting thing that I guess I just kind of exploring more and more is that different blends of coffee have different tones that are really subtle. Like, for example, Starbucks coffee, so French roast, really, is very different than, say, like an Arabica coffee, which maybe that isn't French roast or something. One, Starbucks in general, is usually a little bit more orangey, and a non-French roast is a little paler. And it's just really weird to play with those because you really can see the difference afterward. And they just offered their own unique just properties, and the way they stain things. It's just really amazing. And so I'm just kind of exploring that, and just it's just really it's just such a fun, I guess, medium. And like I said, it's because it's a little bit more immediate, whatever, it's a little more accessible to people and they can identify with it, and it's kind of fun. So I just kind of play with it, and you can put on a coffee mug and drink it. It's just such a really cool medium. So it's kind of a side exploration.
Been scrolling through. Good timing too. About a lot of the coffee art has been going through here. Is that your dog?
No, it's actually my mother-in-law's one of her puppies. Yep, that's right there. That's my wife.
So you borrowed a dog, and there's Marina.
Yeah, I mean, I've done. That's my neighbor's dog. Actually, he passed away, so it was kind of like a gift for him. But yeah, here there's a quick work in progress from that page actually, and it's a really fun thing. I always wanted to do live demos with that because it's so immediate. You can see the effect of it. That it actually is really cool.
Well, it looks like we might have Pamela Comstock, our board member with Shark Stewards, whose brainchild and muse Art for Sharks is. And hi, Pamela. This is, I think, our 5th or 6th this year, and we're going to continue next year.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha.
How are you?
I'm good. Can you see me?
I can.
Okay.
So I know you're really busy.
No, I was able to finish that project, so I'm happy to be here.
Oh, great. Well, I don't think you've had a chance to meet Tom, who's I'm trying to remember how many. We did Gary Rose first, and then Sarah Phillips from Australia, Tim Mirsky.
Yeah.
Kind of showed some art from Keole.
Keale.
And and then last one was Stephanie Martin, a wildlife artist in Santa Cruz. So
Yeah.
kind of a really great diversity, not only of types of art, but geographic locations, some and media, different methodologies of media. So this is really fun. I don't know if you can see the screen of some of Tom's work, and Tom has been a volunteer and supporter of Shark Stewards with our Run for Sharks, started by our Southern California chair, Maria Corsamaros, who's an athlete, triathlete, Iron Woman, and shark survivor, and started the Run for Sharks, which is a health fair, a youth event, and a community event around ocean and human health. And Tom has been there since the beginning, and here's some of his art on Instagram. And there's his wild pics, his table that he comes out, and even there's a really beautiful print that he donated to support Shark Stewards conservation effort. Thanks for that, Tom.
Yeah.
And just the meticulous amount of detail is extraordinary. But we were just talking about coffee and Kona coffee and Starbucks coffee. We don't want to give them too much of a plug. Maybe it's orange because it's not organic or it has that Frappuccino stuff in it, whatever that is.
Yeah, not my favorite, but whatever.
But Tom finds his pigment wherever he goes. And so anyway, I want to introduce you two. Tom was just in Kona, unbeknownst to me. So hopefully we will, next time you're around, we'll be able to get into the water and you know, inspire each other.
Yeah, and if you go to the to the copy art page.
Oh, copy art, okay.
Yeah.
Copy art.
This is just a quick example of how you.
Okay, so we're at the turtle.
And then there's a link there, or you can it's kind of tagged in there. Kind of follow the.
Down here at the bottom.
Yeah. I think it's probably the next one. Maybe one more. Yeah, it's right. Maybe the next one, or you can just come to it directly. It's that one right there. This should be art and Java.
Art underscore and underscore Java. But okay, so that's another Instagram.
Yeah, complete. Okay. It's a different profile.
Here, art and Java. There you go. I'm going to follow you.
And then I believe I think it's one of the first two. Or there's just a really quick time lapse video.
Up in the.
Or just in the feed actually. I believe it's the giraffe right there has this time lapse video. Yeah. Or the next one over maybe. Could be the next one. But that was actually kind of an interesting exploration. I haven't done a giraffe ever, but it's actually the next one over, the next profile picture.
Got all this. You're doing these from the laptop. There we go. There we go.
Yeah. So it's not grandiose, but it would be nice eventually to do. Live demos of these kinds of things is always a great thing, but if you can kind of get an idea of how it's stained, it's a really cool process. And
so this is actually coffee that you're painting with?
Right there, it's just the highlights. So this is actually just a gel pen, but some of the staining right here is actually just straight up cup of coffee, which is kind of fun.
So you just sip on your coffee, dip your breath.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's obvious that
got a little taster set.
Yeah, that adds a little flavor.
So
a little extra flavor there.
How long does it take to do a piece like this?
Actually, interesting. It's pretty quick. Once I could do the outline, probably maybe a couple hours or so, if I'm, if I really have enough time, a block of time to do it. And then afterward, the staining is pretty quick. You could probably do staining in about 15 minutes, just because, like I said, it's very immediate. Once it stains the paper, you can't really do much about it. So you can do one layer, let it dry in a few minutes, do another layer, let it dry, add some more color, darken up, different pieces and that sort of thing. Then add a few highlights with some gel pens and you're done. So it's kind of an interesting medium because it is so immediate and because it is so quick. You can do live demos, or you can have people do their own. You can have group classes or something, because it's fun. You draw a little picture and then you stain it with coffee. It's actually quite fun, as a way to color things and stuff. And it's a really fun way of, I don't know, just getting creative and doing that sort of thing. But what I find is really challenging, and this is, I guess, where the magic comes in, is actually finding where the color works best, because it does stain and you can build up layers, making things darker or lighter, or I guess shading them. It has a little bit of its own magic to it, because you build up layers and you can add tone and that sort of.
Right. And so you start out, you draw the outline with a felt pen, or what kind of pen are you?
It's actually a really heavy, dark Palomino Blackwing pencil that's just like really, really heavy graphite, and it has like a really smooth texture. And when you run the coffee over it after, and the paper, and it dries, it actually, interestingly enough, seals it in a weird way, and adheres to the watercolor paper, so it doesn't really smudge, which is fascinating, because usually really dark pencils, when you draw with them in graphite, smudges notoriously. But when you run this over with coffee or water, really, it seals it right into the paper, and it doesn't really smudge very much, which I love that, because you don't have to treat the paper afterward.
Right. Wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, so it's just straight graphite.
Charcoals or heavy pencils will smear.
It's horrible, and you have to be really careful. So if you have a beautiful picture and stuff, or pastels or something, and you just eke it with your hand or something, you're like, oh man, that's terrible. But yeah, it's great. It's weird how it works that way, but it seals it right in there, and it makes it nice and dark, and it looks really good. There's a couple other work in progress, or not work in progress, but a couple other short time-lapse videos. And that was the first one. That's the one I was talking about. That one right there was the very first inspiration for the whole coffee thing. And that little dot on his flipper wing, whatever you want to call it, the main dot, it's a very dark dot right there. That was the mistake that started the whole thing. I was like, oh man, dropped right on the thing, and it just kind of stained it. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see where it goes. So that was That's the guy right there.
That's
And
so
it kind of
cool.
just defined that, at least in terms of this profile, this approach. It just kind of defined it. I put on the cards and on the Etsy shops, on all the the collateral and stuff like that, because it was so, I don't know, it was iconic. It was just really cool. So it's one of the first ones. But
that's a great story. That was something I was going to ask you. Like, what was the original catalyst that inspired you to use coffee as a medium? This is like totally new to me too.
It just happened. It just happened. It was great. Yep, that guy right there.
That's a big coffee splotch.
Yeah, just a big coffee smudge. And one of the great things that I find with the coffee art, and I don't want to keep going on that, because there's the whole other profile. The colored pencils is a whole nother world. It's just, this is one of the more newer things I've kind of explored, is they reproduce so well. Like when you get them reproduced as a print, the prints come out like just as nice, as almost as nice as the originals. And then sometimes people like them better because they're you can kind of make the coffee a little bit more vibrant, I guess you could say. Once the actual coffee seeps into the paper, it kind of, not that it dulls, but it looks like coffee. But when you get them printed, you can make it slightly vibrant, but they hold so well. And it's a tricky thing, because a lot of times when you get prints done with other things, you have to be careful that they reproduce nicely, because people, they want to have a nice picture. So with the fine art piece, you have to really get them printed with. But these reproduce great. And then you can get them printed on a cup or a coffee cup or a shirt, or I don't know, whatever, because they're not super. Right. I mean, they come out fantastic. It's really, really, really amazing. It's so fun that it just happened that way. It just is a happy mistake. And, the thing that I like about it, because it is really accessible, you can just really just explore so many different kinds of pieces. I was like, I want to draw every single animal I can possibly think of. Because you can do them a lot quicker, and you can, just make them each one unique. And I really think that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it really is extraordinary. One of the things is the realism, but just the amount of detail in that short amount of time. It's just so impressive, especially.
Yeah, and that's and it's very different than the other stuff, which is more fine art driven. The more of a fine art kind of approach. They're usually the colored pencils and the acetone washes are usually much larger, more involved. These things, they take a lot longer, just because you have to, if you click on that one right there, this piece, I think this one is a time lapse too. It gets tricky because they do take a lot of time. This is just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And you do a base, then you have to do an acetone wash, let it dry for about an hour, and then do another layer.
So this is pointillism, right?
Pretty much, it ends up being like that. After you get a base color wash, you have to just keep adding up layers and layers and layers, and it's kind of interesting. And it's really magical when you start getting into the fine detail points. And that's what I was talking about. You start getting into the textures and the visceral components of things, because you really have to get into that mindset to really, really, really get the detail. At least I do anyway. Some people could just paint, however, but it's a amazing process, I think.
Well, I mean, just look at that eye. That's just so extraordinary.
And I think there's another video, maybe it's this one, where you can see the different, I think this is adding layers and layers, but there's another one where you can see I did some color washes and then added a few layers. I think this one is it. it's a really interesting process. You can see right there, what I'm doing is I'm kind of doing some of the color-based layer color work, and it doesn't look much of anything. It kind of looks like colored pencils, especially if you do it on pastel paper. And then you just add in the magic, which is the first acetone wash. And it just kind of blends it. And some people are familiar with it and they don't really think it's a big deal, but there's a magic to it, and how much you use in terms of color, and how I guess precise you can get with it. It almost becomes like a cross between painting with a pencil and just regular acrylic painting. So it's a really, I don't know, I found it's a really fun process. You can get really detail, I guess, over the.
Yeah, wow, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, that's fun. And when you get a big piece, that's when it gets really crazy. I just have to say that. When you get a big piece, then it gets a little insane, but yeah, that's fun.
Well, you know, I was thinking, it seems like I've been watching your son grow up, which is really cool. He's a little athlete in his own. So is Tommy, is he an artist?
He's a really good artist, to tell you the truth. He doesn't do it quite so much now because he's in school and he's doing swim and all those other activities that take up tons of time. But we used to spend a lot of time drawing, and he's a really good artist. He's when he wants to be. He's just a creative dude. His mind works like I don't know, just 100 million times faster than mine ever would. So he just can get in the zone and draw stuff. Maybe that's good or not bad. Maybe it's a little of a young person patience type of thing. But he's a really good artist. Yeah.
That's great.
And he's got his own thing going, I don't know how much he would like to do dot by dot by dot, but I don't think anyone would. But
well, it's clear, with your family, but also how you express. I mean, education is very important to you, and also endangered wildlife, because a lot of the work that you feature, I mean, not just sharks, and I do want to show some of your shark work, but a lot of the wildlife that you do, like cheetahs and lions, jaguars, green sea turtles, are endangered globally. Many of these species are becoming so rare. So what's the kind of inspiration there, other than like crazy beauty? Like that looks like a photograph. It's just
funny. Talking of education, I've done a number of presentations with Tommy's class. I was able to go in and put together some presentations on. It was mostly on endangered, in general, is during their endangered species kind of units that they were doing in science or humanities or whatever it was that they were learning about. And I was able to do a guest speaking and show drawings. And what I did was a step-by-step drawing with them, where we would reproduce kind of one of the endangered species. And then in a couple of the cases we did, I think a gorilla, we did a jaguar actually. So what we would do is step by step, just drawing basic drawings, and then get to color them. And it was really interactive. And then what I would do is, give out a little bit of information with the drawing as we were going. So it became a really great, I guess, add on to what they were learning there in school. And then getting like a guest speaker come in and have a live demo of drawing and some education, and then get a take home, I guess, small little booklet of how to draw this with some good information. And it was really, really cool. It was actually super fulfilling in terms of, I guess, getting a chance to interact with young people, and then seeing how inspired and I guess into not just conservation, but into the art and the information and learning about animals. I mean, everyone loves animals, but it was really inspiring to see how much they got into it, and being able not only to teach, but also to, share your drawings and passions and stuff. But that was a complete segue with your original question, but we were talking about education and that sort of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, this is great. Here's the gorilla that you can see
Yeah.
sort of the various stages. I mean, look at that face. That's just incredible. I mean, it's...
But you are asking what, why, endangered animals and in terms of a focus. Interestingly enough, and it sounds kind of crazy or creepy or whatever, but I had a dream one time, and it was as my dad had passed away in 2017, and I think on your Facebook announcement you had shown it was like a double split of a graphite great white, which is, it was like a 2-panel piece. It was a pretty large piece. That was one of the original ones that kind of spurned this whole endangered animal kind of focus in terms of art. I mean, I've been drawing a lot my whole life, and that and like you were talking about, I do digital painting and that sort of thing as a profession and that sort of and lots of things like that. But when he passed away, before he died, we had been talking about doing things that you love and are passionate about, because he was on his last bit of time. So he told me, he's like, you gotta do something that you care about and that you love. And so soon after, I had a dream, and whatever you want to call it, the fates or the wonders or whatever, they talk to me or whatever, but I had an idea. I was like, I want to draw every single endangered animal that I can possibly draw, as a way to not only to express yourself, but to kind of like almost on a mission type of approach. I want to be able to use my talent for something to, I don't know, help leave the place better than you arrived. And so I just was like, I'm just going to start with a shark, because I love sharks. And it led to one thing after another and after another. And, I do a lot of big cats because, I don't know, I just, at the time, I just fell in love with them. But I was like, I'm just going to go down the list. I mean, and it's too extensive a list to actually go down and actually try and do it. But it's kind of a long-term, lifelong mission to actually be able to capture as many as I can, as well as I can, just because they're all amazing. So that's the whole long and short of it, in a weird way. It's a creepy dream.
Interesting. Well, your work has certainly evolved from that one shark, and that's funny that that was the original piece, because I was looking through all your pieces and like, how do I wanted to do something to promote this, and I really latched onto that. I love that kind of sepia, and the sharks are also so anatomically accurate. But as you say, you can't do them all, because there's 355 species of sharks and rays. Almost 1/4 of the entire Alaskan rank group are threatened with extinction, which is what we're trying to reverse with Shark Stewards, and using media like this, trying to share the beauty of wildlife and art. So this is the white shark that you did, and it's so great because if anybody knows, you had the accuracy, the margins along the flank here, the scarring, because white sharks tend to bite each other. Love bites, or sometimes territorial, and it's also how we kind of recognize individual white sharks is through their scarring. So really accurate. The body pose, the position is really anatomically correct. It's just extraordinary. And then what does Quint say in Jaws? It's eyes, chief, doll's eyes, black eyes, dark doll's eyes. They do have these sort of, actually, if you get really close to a white shark, which I've had the opportunity, it's almost a little bit of blue in there. This really beautiful, almost deep blue when you get close enough, like 3 feet away, and then you're thinking about looking in their eye instead of all the other things that are going on, like the teeth in the body and how large they are. But they have this incredible eye that is so beautiful, and and you can see the sentience, you can feel it, that they're looking at you, they're understanding that you are a being. You're not just a human on a plate. So
I would, I would love to have that opportunity, as much as I have a kind of like an interesting love and phobia of great whites and just in sharks in general, but I would love to be able to get that close to actually be, experience that, because it's just, I can only imagine, so amazing. And it was funny when I went to the last Run for Sharks. There was the booth next to me. There was I don't remember what it was, but they tracked great white sharks.
The Shark Lab, Chris Lowe's, Cal State Long Beach.
Yeah.
The Shark Lab.
I was really scared because I spent so much time and detail on this particular one to try to get the different markings and the gray and the white and the different patterns as close as I could to the reference image that I had, because I know that they're, I guess, almost like fingerprints, I would assume. And I was kind of scared because when he was looking at the real picture, he's like analyzing it from four, right here at his face, like a few inches. And I was like, oh no, is it going to be inaccurate? Almost. I was like, is he going to recognize this one and be like, oh, you missed something? And so it was kind of funny, but he gave me a thumbs up, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, Chris Lowe's been a great partner and truly a great scientist, looking at white shark movements in Southern California primarily, and the recent shift north as a result of warmer sea surface temperatures and the population expansion. So yeah, that was at the Run for Shark, which was really great. The Shark Lab has been a great education partner, as well as they've actually donated jaws, because Fish and Wildlife will confiscate jaws in shipments. And one of the things that we found at Shark Stewards, and we've written Fish and Wildlife, and it might just take a lawsuit, but eBay is allowing vendors to sell white sharks, jaws, the sawfish, rostra, other endangered species or species that are protected under the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species without permit. So it's actually illegal export and trade of a permitted protected animal. And so that's one of the things that we lasted upon, and one of my students did a report, because people are making money off these body parts, because we are fascinated in a way, but we shouldn't be making money off of their body parts, like shark fin as well.
Right, that's true.
So Chris has actually been really great in donating, because U.S. Fish and Wildlife is like, what are we going to do with 1,000 shark jaws that were on their way to China? And they're like, do you want them? And he's like, sure. And so he's been giving them away to groups like Shark Stewards or the Oceanic Institute down in Dana Point or other museums.
Yeah.
But we can learn from some of these desperados, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope, and hopefully they were able to catch them.
Well, it's another good point. That we were talking about, the online versus the in-person thing and all the art. There's an amazing tool with the internet and social media, and that's another reason why I try to do as much as I can and with the online stuff, and then why I really want to be able to push some of the the online demos and stuff, because I want to, if possible, it would be great to be able to offset a lot of that in some way. I know obviously it's impossible, but even a small dent is, I guess, a lot of little bottles make a big bottle. If you can think about that, if we can, as a community of artists, do as much as we can on the online game to help promote and use the social tool as a way to make money, spread the word, and kind of network with groups such as yourself or other conservation groups. Hopefully in time it'll kind of help offset, or at least educate people to realize what are you doing.
Well, it's
see so much atrocity. It's just
it is. And I think on the upside, because if you work in conservation, and I have for most of my life, too many facts, the grisly statistics and how sad it is. And, I've had the good fortune to experience wildlife in the wildness. And that's what we endeavor to do with Shark Stewards, is to protect the places they live also. So increasing protected areas where fishing is prohibited, so that people can go in, or like Tommy can go in and see a wild sea turtle and really get that true experience. But
Yeah.
showing how beautiful wildlife is, and that's the next step, right? Through either photography or documentary or art, to people who aren't able to get there and see it and really appreciate that. These things are so extraordinary, and they've been around for millions and millions of years, and they are disappearing in the blink of an eye. So this is actually a really fun way too, and it's uplifting for me because, you know, I kind of slide under the table a lot when I'm doing reports or getting ready to testify about how dire the situation is in the ocean or in wildlife. And there is still a lot to save, and there is still a lot we can save, and there are ways to save it. And, you know, just looking at your Instagram, all the, you know, the inspiration, all the loves and the flames and the clasping hands that you know, you're inspiring through people through your work, and also going to schools. I mean, I think education is so important with kids.
Yeah, you know, and that's, I mean, I'm so happy that, you know, like, I mean, from a personal level, my son, you know, he gets to go and enjoy, you know, all the you know, the runs and stuff like that. But he also, you know, gets to see, and hopefully gets to, you know, understands a little bit of the role modeling part of it. But he loves animals, and that means the world to me because, you know, my wife is a huge animal lover, and so to see him have the appreciation is gold right there, you know, because he's the next, I mean, he's what is the whole point, you know, at least from our perspective. I mean, you know, we're not the ones that will see the missing pieces down the road. He is. So for him to actually have that appreciation and be able to join in, just, I guess, the passion of it is really, really cool. Just to be able to help, you know, see it come to, I guess, the next generation.
Absolutely.
I think that means, well, so much more than any online sale or anything like that. Just, because it's self, I guess, perpetuating in a lot of ways. So hopefully, you know, that will help too. And, you know, you never know who you can affect, I guess. So if you're doing some kind of art in some way and being able to share it, you know, hopefully that'll inspire people. That would be, I think, I guess, the whole end game. That would make the whole thing meaningful, right? At least in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well said. I mean, that's one of the gratifying things about the Run for Sharks is that we really try to get kids out and, you know, get kids away from their tablets or their phones and get out in nature and get healthy, but also inspire them about the ocean and do a beach cleanup or, you know, be part of the solution. And also really one of the most gratifying things that I have as a teacher is to see that light go on when a kid, and in many cases, we work with Chinese youth, Chinese young women in Malaysia and Indonesia, and take them diving and to see what they're eating and to realize how wonderful and how beautiful and how precious these fish are alive. Not even sharks, I mean, just like a parrotfish. And then to go back and just see it in an aquarium at a restaurant, and like, you don't want to eat that once you've seen how extraordinary, how evolved. There's like 100 million years there of perfection, right? And we look at it in a can or on a plate. So when you see a kid, their eyes like see it, you just know you've made a difference. You know that just, you know, the hook got sunk in a good way. Can you just tell a little bit how people can buy your art, how they can obtain some of this really incredible work? Right back.
I have two Instagram profiles. One is Tom Ciccone _art, and I have a Saatchi art link in the profile, and that has all the colored pencil art and, I guess, the wildlife art that you see from here on the booth. And those are the larger pieces. They're available in prints or, I guess, the originals. A lot of people, you know, opt for the prints just because you can size them as you need to, and they're a little more accessible. I also have another page. David was talking about the coffee art. That's art_and_Java. That's another Instagram page, and it has a link to an Etsy shop, and you can order any of those that are on there. But you can also, if there's something that you don't see there, a lot of people opt to send me a note either through Instagram or through the Etsy shop, or maybe a portrait of their pet, or someone wants to have a certain animal they want drawn. There's the opportunity to do that too, just because they're a little more accessible, and if there's something custom that you want, you can get it for a gift or something like that. They're just a fun way of, I guess, exploring different pieces or animals or whatnot. But yeah, that's the fine art one.
Yeah, I was just looking at. So that's, where did it go? Here we go. And the Etsy page is what?
It's from the Art in Java
Art in
profile.
Java.
There's a link right there.
Okay. So Art in Java.
This right here is the more fine art sales page, and I just use Saatchi Art because they have a really fantastic the print setup. So if you don't want to opt for an original and you want a print of it, they just have a fantastic way to print different, mediums, kind of on demand. So they have different sizes you can choose from, and it's kind of a plug and play type of thing. So you can choose whatever frame you want. You can choose whatever, paper, whatever size, within reason, obviously, but you can put them on canvas, and they just reproduce really well.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you.
And then in the coffee stuff, I run it through Etsy because it's, like I said, it's a little bit more accessible in some way. And printing those, they print really well. I mean, I can print them. I have a fine art printer that I can just print them at different sizes, and they come out fantastic. So that's why I run it through an Etsy shop versus like a fine art website page.
Yeah, well, I mean, your work deserves it. Good printer is really important.
Oh, I could go on and on and on. I mean, that's a whole other aspect. I mean, I've been doing graphics design for my other, I guess, digital component for years and years and years and years and years. And I grew up in a print shop. I mean, my dad was a printer, so good printer is just, that's a whole nother.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole nother thing. I could go on and on and on about.
Yeah, you can have a beautiful work, but if you can't reproduce it.
It's true. I mean, printers these days are just terrible, but not all of them, but that's a whole.
Well, we'll put your URLs in the Facebook, and we'll definitely share and all that good stuff. So really a fun conversation. And I wanted to just share a little bit about Shark Stewards. And, we got to know each other through the Run for Sharks. And there's Maria and your family. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Great. So there's Tom and Marina and Tommy and Maria over there on the right, who's our SoCal chairwoman.
And how amazing is it to see how much it's been growing over the last 3-4 years now?
4 years. So all virtual last year and a hybrid this year.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I like that.
Well, we can attribute that to Maria and her dynamism. She is a force to nature, her own self, and especially being a white shark survivor, she has a great story that we will probably share. We actually have a team event, live Zoom, one of these two that'll be on Facebook in December 16th, and anybody can join into that. And we do shark trivia, but we tell our stories in a little bit of a way to build community, because we are actually international. We work in Asia, and it's a great way. And I think we've learned that through COVID, that we can connect to each other in new ways. and expand our message and work together. So yeah, last year was virtual, but we rallied, and I think we had 7 or 8 different exhibitors like you and the Shark Lab, but also a health fair, and about, I think, I can't remember now, around 70 participants, both in person and also virtually. And hopefully next year we're going to crack 100. And it's fun to have a run near the beach and have a beach cleanup and learn about health and being healthy.
Yeah.
That's every, in this case, it was the first week of November, but every fall we do our run for sharks. And also Maria's been leading regular beach cleanups down in Southern California. I'm based in San Francisco and Kona now, but San Francisco, 2 good places. But we have beach cleanups that we started with kids at our national park in San Francisco, trying to make the national park system plastic free, which is now a national campaign, as well as butt free, making parks smoke free. So we did a film that we actually got a national park award. I went to Washington, D.C. with the teacher for a film we did on YouTube. It's called Hang On to Your Butts. So you can have a lot of fun with kids and a lot of fun out in the wild. And, you know, conservation can be fun. Yeah. So this is a blue shark that Tom Ciccone did. If people are still with us on Facebook and later on YouTube with Art for Sharks. And blue sharks are a shark that I grew up with in the kind of the northwest end of Los Angeles County, and then later in Santa Barbara. And we used to see blue sharks by the hundreds. This shark is the largest shark fin in the shark fin trade of big sharks. Over 20 million it's estimated. They're disappearing globally. We used to call them blue dogs. They'd follow the boat around. They're so rare now when they used to be so abundant. They're disappearing from the Atlantic because of the tuna fishery, and they're also disappearing from the Pacific. And so one of the campaigns we're hoping for the next Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species is to help list blue sharks, which is a global species that are imperiled, not only because of shark fin and shark fin soup, but also just because of our disregard when we're catching tuna or swordfish. So I especially love this piece. I think you just premiered this piece this year. It's the first time I've seen it at our Run for Sharks.
I think, you know what, actually I think this was an older piece, but I didn't actually use it or pull it out because everyone liked the great white
The great white shark.
Yeah, everyone. I can see why. So I was like, well, I'll just keep this one on the side.
So is this watercolor, or what is the medium here?
It actually was pastel, some pastel and colored pencil and acetone. So it's kind of an interesting combination of them all. So it kind of has a slightly different look feel to it than usual, but yeah, just it was an exploration and a little bit of pastel work. I don't do a ton of it because I'm just not as good at that medium, but I figured it would work just to explore it. But
that is beautiful and very accurate again anatomically. Speaking as
but
a
in
scientist.
Terms of blue, that's really the driving force. It's hard to get colored pencil to be really, really nice blue. But pastel you can really do it, so that's why I did.
Okay.
If you really want to do it, if you want to know, I needed the blue.
Well, these are a really curious shark. You know, they're mostly more of a pelagic species, and I've been in the water. I've actually been working on a documentary, and the climax was to get in the water with blue sharks, and it turned out kind of like the endless summer. We were diving down the coast with this German film crew. Out of my Volkswagen van with surfboards and Labrador, and we would scuba dive in weird places on the coast. And then we'd ask people, "Have you seen a blue shark?" And it was kind of like, "Oh man, you should have been here yesterday," because they were so abundant. And we were able to finally find one in San Diego off Coronado, about 15 miles offshore. But it was really hard to find. But if you get a chance to see these sharks, they do hang around tuna fleets, and so the tuna fishermen see them. But the blue is so iridescent, but also cryptic that you look down on a blue shark and you can't see them. They're perfectly camouflaged. It's just unbelievable. They're just like ghosts, and they come out of the blue and they're right there. It's like, holy shit, when they lift their head, it's a little bit counter shade. It's white underneath. It's like, whoa, where did you come from?
And how big do they get typically? Like how
10, 12 feet.
Oh my
Typically
goodness.
we see them, they're a lot smaller, 6 or 7. They're not a big shark like a white shark though, or a mako. They're not as fat around. But they're very fast swimming and long distance migratory species. They are just extraordinary. So that's one of my favorite pieces. So I just want to go through a little bit about shark stewards, and we try to incorporate different forms of outreach and education, direct formal education in the classroom at the University of San Francisco where I teach, UC Berkeley where I lecture, among elementary schools, or with our International Ocean Film Festival, any medium to get in front of kids and actually get them to do hands-on conservation. And one of the things we have done is filmmaking with youth and art. So it'd be really fun to do that. And this is at our Run for Sharks with Maria and Tom Ciccone's family, who we are now talking about live on Facebook and later on our YouTube channel. So our Shark Stewards mission is to restore ocean health by saving sharks from extinction and the shark fin through regulating the shark fin trade and overfishing, and protecting critical marine habitat through marine protected areas. And our vision is to have a healthy ocean with endangered sharks and rays flourishing in other species, and trying to achieve the UN goal of protecting 30% of our oceans by 2030. I'm fortunate enough to be a diver, a research scientist at the California Academy of Sciences, and a National Geographic explorer and an ocean explorer, crossing oceans, telling stories, and applying that to either documentary films that we show in our International Ocean Film Festival in San Francisco, live and virtually each year, but also apply that information, that science, and that passion towards policy and changing minds and even laws. In the example of this, Shark Stewards of the Reef, our first film that we made in the South Pacific, we used this film to advocate for the California shark fin ban, which we helped introduce with Jared Huffman, then my assemblyman, now our congressman, who is a champion and chair trying to push through HR 2811, the US shark fin ban 15 years later. We were also able to help use this film and advocacy here in Hawaii to protect the Papahanaumokuakea, which are the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, the Kapuna Islands, north of Hawaii. They're sacred, they're important culturally, and they're America's largest marine protected area and the largest protected coral reef ecosystem, at least in the north central Pacific. So film can really have a strong way to advocate and tell stories beyond the classroom or beyond the policy makers' realm. I have also worked with Patagonia as a Patagonia grantee and recipient. We did a film called 180 South. So this is part of a talk I gave to Patagonia recently. But sharks inspire us. Sharks are symbols. Sharks are symbols of, in many cases, sharks can be the symbols of something negative, fear, malignity, man-eaters, woman-eaters, bloodthirsty, vicious, cold, all of these negative connotations that have been generated and accelerated by the media, particularly starting with Jaws. But sharks are also symbols of ocean health and what can be perfect, what can be beautiful, and what can be intact. So having a shark is a good thing because that means the ecosystem is healthy and intact. And that symbol of having a shark, that's a good thing. Flying that flag is a flag of health, which we all realize we need now globally because we are interconnected through airplanes, through vessels, and through our interactions. I don't want to talk too much about the migrations. I do talk about migrations and what connects us here are white sharks that are migrating all the way from the northeast coast, the west coast of North America in the Northeast Pacific, all the way to Hawaii, here up in the Kapun Islands and Northwest Hawaiian Islands, where they're protected, where they're eating and feeding, and then returning back, particularly the females when they're pregnant and giving birth down in Southern California and Baja. So these sharks are connecting where we work in North America to where we are now in Hawaii with tiger sharks and oceanic white tips. And these sharks can serve as emissaries, as ambassadors, as symbols, and also as harbingers of what is happening to the ocean, because we are losing so many species. So protecting their habitat as well as their species from overfishing is critical. We've been doing that for 15 years in our National Marine Sanctuary System, our state marine protected areas, protecting not only great whites, but their great food like the northern elephant seals and other pinnipeds. So these populations require healthy fish populations, which require healthy plankton populations, which require healthy oceans. So we need all of those levels, and humans are part of that. These sharks are individual. We can tell, as you saw through Tom's work in scarring, they have unique scarring patterns. They have unique fin patterns, in this case with white sharks, that some of the work done by Scott Anderson and Sal Jorgensen and Peter Pyle and others at the Farallon Islands, but also here being done underwater with our colleagues, the Shark Research Institute in tiger sharks, which we are finding are now not territorial. We know they're not territorial. They're actually coming down from the Northwest Hawaiian Islands where they're protected, where they're feeding on sea turtles, marine mammals, and fish. The pregnant females, much like the white sharks, migrate to the warmer waters here in the main Hawaiian Islands to give birth. So these photographers are taking photographs of these wonderful species. They get incredibly close. They're curious, but not aggressive in most cases. And we're learning about who they are, what individuals over time, using pattern recognition and running it through a software program. So we have this marine megafauna AI project that we're working on that is used whale shark and manta ray programs, and applying that to tiger sharks and other taxa that hopefully other community scientists, dive communities can apply worldwide. And you can use that information towards population size. You can get to know individuals. And then if you have a better grasp of population seasonality, temporality, maybe sharks are disappearing, not returning, maybe that's the place, that's a hot spot you need to consider protecting. We have expeditions that we're leading. You can come to Kona in May with Shark Research Institute and dive and become a community scientist, apply your photography. Join us on Sapporo with Blue Endeavors, with students using this new technology, identifying individual manta rays, as well as other marine megafauna like whale sharks, hammerhead sharks, and other taxa by taking photographs and running it through this program and looking at either patterns, different scarring, different deformations of dorsal fins, or whatever that unique characteristic. And we can apply that again towards protecting these incredible animals, because these sharks are in peril. It's estimated we're killing 100 million or more sharks and rays a year, and we don't have that many left. We cannot sustain the rate of overfishing, killing sharks as bycatch, killing them for their gills with the great rays, or killing them for their fins for a luxury. 71% of that whole biomass has disappeared since we started industrial fishing in the last really 40 years ago. If you imagine going into a room with 10 people and suddenly 7 left, that's what's happening with the oceans. So there are only 3 left, and we've got to save the remaining 30%. And they're also losing the places that they live. So that's why it's critical to protect their habitat and protect them from overfishing, because sharks are important to the health of the ocean. They do more than these invisible traits that we think of as apex predators, maintaining the regulatory balance of the different trophic levels. They're important because as apex predators, they eat the sick, the stupid, and the slow, and they leave behind the quick, the smart, and the healthy and healthier DNA, but they're also important as foragers of eating dead or decaying animals. By maintaining ocean health, we rely on the oceans for our oxygen. They also play a role in mitigating climate change as a source of blue carbon and also regulating blue carbon in seagrass beds. So saving sharks may just save the planet and help prevent climate change by restoring health in these, or maintaining health in these large carbon sinks such as seagrass beds, by basically not just eating the graders, just moving them around so they're not completely denuding some of this critical habitat. Because really the ocean, the planet should be called planet ocean, not planet Earth. It's most of our water, most of the surface. It's almost all habitable space. So if we want to live, we need to protect our Mother Earth. And so far, we've only gotten about 7.5%. The goal is 30% by 2030. We have a long way to go, including trying to maintain the protections we have. So Shark Stewards is trying to protect large protected areas, such as the National Marine Sanctuary in the Papahanaumokuakea, which is a marine national monument, a different status and a different method of management. It can actually have better science and even better management and better resources by including some of the Papahanaumokuakea under a National Marine Sanctuary. That's currently being heard by our Congress. You can add your voice, go to our website. If you don't know who your congressperson is, you can find out and send them a tweet or send them an email and say you support not only this Hawaiian National Marine Sanctuary, but the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary off of Big Sur coastline in California. So connecting our oceans again, connecting our love, connecting these species that know no borders, that know no lines on the map, that know no lines in the water. They need these larger areas to maintain not only what they eat, but also what humans eat. So we're protecting not only these large protected areas, but also our Marine Protected Area Network in California, and supporting the Governor Ige here in Hawaii to reach that 30 by 2030 goal that he is committed to, as has President Biden, as has Governor Newsom, trying to increase protection of our open areas. And in this case, we'd like to see more protection applied to the waters of Hawaii, not just for the natural resources, but for the very valuable cultural importance to Hawaiian people. So there are a lot of Hawaiian people who are working towards this, working towards these marine protected areas as well as the sanctuary. We have another method of collecting data using an app called Shark Watch California with Cal State Long Beach. We were just talking about Chris Lowe, Shark Lab, trying to educate people about what sharks are catching, what sharks you cannot catch, and scraping data through social media to show how many protected species are being caught, such as white sharks, are being chummed and are being gaffed and injured, like blue sharks, like mako sharks, like thresher sharks, that they're either caught and killed or caught and released and severely maimed, or sometimes they're severely angered and they bite humans. Education is critical. Our partners at the California Academy of Sciences has a new shark exhibit. We also have an online series that we do with the Academy. And of course, we're advocates, trying to eliminate the last gillnet fishery in US waters, which is off the coast of California, which catches not only swordfish, which is the target, but maybe 1 in 10 or 0.5% even are the target catch, and the rest are sharks, seabirds, sometimes sea turtles, sometimes whales. It's a hugely harmful fishery, and it's on its way out thanks to Senator Feinstein under Senate Bill 273. If you want to sign a petition, go to sharkstewards.org. We've got one to support this, as well as HR 2811, the Shark Fin Sales Elimination Act, to join Canada, to join the UK, in being a large nation that says sharks are more important in the ocean than they are in a bowl of soup, and educating our brothers and sisters across the oceans, across the globe, to regulate as well as educate that these species are more important alive than they are dead. So again, going back to Tom's beautiful painting of a blue shark, these animals are so incredible and they are disappearing. So we're working at CITES at the next COP meeting of the parties, coalition of the parties, to try to protect blue sharks under CITES. Because we're all integrated, just like this little diagram showing how fish, how invertebrates, how coral reef, how nutrients, how inanimate and animate objects are integrated. We are in there as well. Humans are part of this, and we need to integrate. We need to respect each other. We need to work with each other across the ocean, across nations. No borders, know only love and passion, and protect this incredible ocean and wildlife that is so important to all of us and so important to the future of young people like Tom Ciccone. So please dive in and join us. There's a number of things you can do. Go to the action or how you can help. Join our next Art for Sharks, buy a piece of art from Tom, support your local artist, support your local advocate, volunteer in Southern California, in Northern California, here in Hawaii, also in Southeast Asia, wherever you live, become an advocate because the ocean touches us all. And sharks are symbols of ocean health. If you need a Christmas gift, you can buy Sharks for Kids on our website. It's a great gift. Learn a lot about sharks and conservation and support Shark Stewards mission. We have a few more events. Join us December 16th and our expeditions next year. And hopefully we'll see you in person at one of our events in Hawaii, back to Singapore or Indonesia, back to Malaysia, back to Sharktoberfest in San Francisco, and on our Run for Sharks next fall. So I want to thanks for everyone. We have a membership drive. Somebody was asking about our shirts, so I put this on here. This is our new logo. It used to be a white shark, which is a very powerful symbol. It's now the endangered manta ray, mobula rays, and hammerheads. Those species are endangered. And so we wanted to depict this kind of harmony, the yin and yang of the ocean, that we can live symbiotically, sympathetically, that we can coexist, and we need to protect these endangered species. So if you want to go to our website and join our team, we'll send you these really, really cool special run of t-shirts. So I have to thank our supporters and sponsors, Earth Island Institute, of which we are a part of, based in Berkeley. We are an international nonprofit, and we rely on the love, the time, the generosity, the passion of people like Pamela, people like Thomas, people like you in the audience, listening and joining us to save sharks and protect ocean health. So thanks for listening for our final Art for Sharks of 2021, but not our last. We'll put this up on YouTube. Thank you so much, Tom. Really enjoyed the conversation. And I look forward to seeing you and Marina and Tommy. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you. Your art is beautiful, Thomas.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Asked you offline for some images because we'd like to put it on Art for Sharks.
Yeah,
so
no problem.
We'd love to post it. And I've been extremely busy lately. I'm a new grandmother. Moved to Oahu. Lots of things going on, but forever indebted to art and Art for Sharks and Shark Stewards, and would love to put your art on our site and share more about you there. Yeah. So I'll be in touch with you.
Of course.
And then post that officially there.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's a great opportunity. I'm a believer, so whatever anyone needs.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody out there on Facebook land. And if I don't see you in person, we'll see you on the internet.